Okay, so welcome back. Today we're going to be building tic-tac-toe. Shouldn't be too hard, but you never know. Just like before, we're going to start off with our variables. So what are the variables we're going to need for tic-tac-toe? We're going to need the options for tic-tac-toe. And what are the options for tic-tac-toe? We have rock, which is a string. We have paper, and we have scissors. We're going to put all of these inside of an array, and it'll make sense why later. But just to keep them all nice and tidy. Next, we have our variable for the computer's input. All right, we're going to need two inputs. The computer's going to have an input, and then we're going to have an input. The computer input is just going to be equal to options, and then we're going to access it either by 0, 1, or 2, which will give us rock, paper, and scissors accordingly. So we could put option 0 in here, and that would give us rock. But instead of that, we want it to be random. So we're going to use something called randomizer.nextInt. And what that will do is it will give us a random integer between the two numbers we pass here. So let's say we want between 0, which corresponds to rock, and 2, which corresponds to scissors. So random integer between 0 and 2. Next, we're going to need a variable for user input. And we're going to get the user input from whoever is using our game. So the way we do that is we use something called read. And there's a couple different reads. There's read int, read line. But we're going to use read line because we want them to pass on a string. So read line, and we'll just tell them what we want them to enter. So we can say something like enter rock, paper, or scissors. I'm pretty sure I'm spelling that wrong. Scissors. Cool. And this will just pop up a little prompt and a little text field that will allow them to enter some text, rock, paper, or scissors. And to validate that input, just so they can't enter anything, we can use a while loop. And inside of that loop, we can say if the input isn't rock, or it's not rock, and it's not paper, and it's not scissors. If it's none of these, then force them to input again. So let's say while user input does not equal rock, and which is just two little things here. User input does not equal paper, and user input does not equal scissors. So if they didn't pick any one of those three, then let's force them to input it again. So we'll do the same thing we did up here. We say user input, no need to use var twice. We say user input equals read line, and force them to enter this again. And we can just stop and test. So let's see if that works. We run this, it says enter rock, paper, or scissors. We enter test. That's not rock, paper, or scissors, so it forces us to go again. Let's say we enter rock, and boom, we get rock. Cool, so that's working. Now that we have that working, let's move on to, first, actually, before we move on to our checks, let's just print this out so that we can have consistent visual, right? We'll say print line, that's what the ln stands for, line. We can print out what we selected, or the user, or you. So we can say user or you selected plus user input, whatever they select. Then we can say print line, the computer or CPU selected plus this one up here, whatever the CPU selected. And let's see if that works. So we type in rock. We can see we selected rock and the CPU selected paper. And because it's random, if we run it again, we should get something new for the CPU. Right. So now it's rock and rock. Okay, boom. So now all we need to do is check. We know how this works. Rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, paper beats rock. But how do we put that in code? We'll need to use if statements. 3 to be exact. So we'll need an if, we'll need an else if, and we'll need an else, right? Because there's only 3 options. So no need to check for a third time. The first check is going to say what? If user input equals rock. And then we'll do some more checks for the CPU's input inside of here to compare. And then we'll say else if user input equals 3 or 2 would work, but we'll use 3, paper. And then the last one, we could put else if user input equals scissors, but because it can only be one of these 3, because we confirmed that with our input validation, we can just use an else. Okay, so now what do we want to check inside here? Let's compare it to the CPU's input. So similar thing, except now we're going to say if CPU input equals rock. So if we both put in rock, then that would be a tie. So we can say print line is a tie. Else if CPU input equals paper, then that means they got us. So print line CPU wins, or better yet, let's just say you lose because the user lost. And then else, same thing, it's only 3 options. We don't need another if. We know if it's not rock, if it's not papers, then it must have been scissors. And if they put scissors and we put rock, then we win. And then we can kind of just copy this 3 more times or 2 more times. So the same thing in this condition. Let me just scroll up here so I can see a little better. Same thing in this condition, except, paper beats rock. So we'll put that here. Paper ties with paper. Paper loses to scissors. And scroll down. This is one of scissors. So scissors loses to rock. Yeah, scissors loses to rock. Scissors ties with scissors. And scissors beats paper. And it's that simple. Just with these 3 if, else ifs, we should have a fully working tic-tac-toe game, and it should be fully random. So let's try it. Let's try paper, see if we can get a win on our first try. We lose. But let's try it again, make sure it's random. Let's go rock. Boom. Now we win. So enjoy.